You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't gonna be that fun. Hey everybody, glad you're with us on the podcast. Today we're going to have some fun. James and I are going to talk about movies. It's the summer blockbuster season. We've already seen it start. Planet of the Apes trilogy back on. I'm assuming they're going to do another trilogy just like they did in the late 70s. One of the scariest movies of my young childhood was Planet of the Apes because it was like, it was so realistic, but it was so dystopian. It really, bothered me. And if you ever saw the last scene of the Planet of the Apes where Charlton Heston is riding up. Remember, Charlton Heston was in these movies. He rode up and he saw the Statue of Liberty broke and torn, and he told them, because remember he came back as a from the future kind of thing and saw what had happened. And it was just that he had warned them, that this earth was going to be destroyed. Anyway, I say all that to say that movies have a dramatic input on us and can change our thinking, change our lives, inspire us. It can make us laugh. It can make us go, huh? And all these kind of things. So today, look, I talked about on Friday's Finest Week, I don't believe there's ever a GOAT movie. I really don't. I think there's, just like that, I don't believe there's GOAT athletes, but I think there's movies and athletes and sports teams that are worth arguing like these are some of the best to do it. And so today, James and I are going to talk about our favorite movies and top sort of 10, if you would, movies you want to see or shouldn't see. We may argue a little bit about it. We may talk about it. But either way, you're along for the ride, and we're glad to have you here on the Doug Collins Podcast. We are experiencing instability at every level. Our government lacks leadership, and Bidenomics has been a disaster. The economy is in a fragile state. Inflation has been a consistent issue. High interest rates have put significant pressure on the real estate market, and there have been major bank failures. And many analysts say a stock market correction is likely overdue. We have global conflicts in Europe and the Middle East that have potential to spread, but gold has soared to record highs even among the tensions. There are so many reasons that Americans should consider investments in gold and silver, and Legacy Precious Metals is the gold standard. I love Legacy Precious Metals because of their zero-hassle, education-first approach. They can help you roll your traditional IRA into a gold IRA or ship metals directly to your house. That's what I do. So go to www.legacypminvestments.com to download their free gold investment guide. And look, I've read it. You need to read it. There's so much valuable information in there. So, friends, now's the time to not roll the dice with your hard-earned money. Find out about the growth potential that gold and precious metals can offer you. Contact Legacy Precious Metals today and tell them that Doug Collins sent you. You might have heard Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of the box stores or the shopping channels as the way they used to. They've been part of the cancel culture, so they want to pass the savings directly on to you by having a $25 extravaganza. When Mike started MyPillow, it was just one product company. With the help of his dedicated employees, they now have hundreds of products. Some of you may not even know about that. So to get the word out, I want to invite my listeners to check out the $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-pillow use MyPillows are just $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. Their 6-pack of towel sets, $25. Brand new 4-pack dish towels. You guessed it, just $25. And for the first time ever, the MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, just $25. All orders over $75 will see free shipping too. This amazing offer won't last long, so go to mypillow.com and use the promo code Collins, that's COLLINS, or call 800-986-3994 today. That's promo code Collins. All right, we're back now, ready to go. James.
I've entered the chat.
We've entered. We're here. All is good. And, as I led up the entertainment here, it is, movies that we believe everybody ought to see. I think that's probably the best way to frame this. Movies that everybody ought to see.
Because there is a difference between your favorite movies
and movies you got to see.
Yeah, and we'll probably have a little bit of both, but I
For
think
sure.
this is in there.
Absolutely, because you'll have bias. You don't have a choice.
Oh, yeah, I agree. It is as we go forward again, and we're also. I think you made an interesting comment the other day, and I thought about this. It also depends. During this conversation on Friday's Finest was when you grew up affects a lot of this as well.
Absolutely, it will affect mine. To be clear.
Oh yeah, well, and again, so let's set the table here for the as you get older and have kids and stuff like that. I mean, if you went to the '90s with me, my favorite movies would have probably had to have been Aladdin with Robin Williams. It would have been The Lion King and all these others because all I watched with the kids. I mean, so
Right.
I didn't get to go see a lot of movies. Now, for the '70s, of course, you had Rockies, you had Close Encounters of the Third Kind. You had one of the scariest movies of all, The Exorcist, the original.
Of course.
And into the '80s, of course, you had the classics. You had Breakfast Club. You had Top Gun. You had Indiana Jones. Then you had those John Hughes flicks. Okay, let's just dig in right here.
You're getting a little excited. I feel like you're getting a little too excited.
Is James? Are you a John Hughes guy?
You're a big John Hughes guy, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, and this one shows my age. This one gets me.
So when the first of his movies popped off, which would have been, you know what? I don't want to get this wrong because I don't know the order of these movies. But which one was the first one that comes to mind when you think of John Hughes?
Ferris Bueller.
Okay. First of all, that should be on the list for everyone. It should be on the list for every person ever. Mainly because I think cell phones may have ruined this, but it's still possible for every high school kid to get away with this in some way, shape, or form.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. It was not. Ferris Bueller was actually several in. I looked this up because this is the great part about having podcasts because you can look this up.
Correct.
And again, I have to say, 16 Candles was his first.
Okay, so I was going to say 16. Okay, I was going to bring up 16 Candles because I don't love that movie. But also,
really?
It was
the donger.
I didn't grow up in the 80s. And I think that has something to do with it, where like Ferris Bueller doesn't have that part of it. Like Breakfast Club, there's still cliques as far as I know. I could be wrong. But when I was in high school, there were still cliques and people who didn't talk. That'll be real forever. 16 Candles is a little like, I think very not that any of those movies aren't 80s. They are very clearly 80s. Just
yeah.
But jean jackets wrapped around the waist. But in the sense of like Ferris Bueller, that movie will always be timeless because it's something we can all relate to. Is like, how do I get out of going to school today?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's all I wanted to do. I literally spent most of my time trying to figure out how I didn't have to go to school.
Yeah. Well, my interesting thing for me on Ferris Bueller, and I didn't realize this is good for me to go back and see because here's the order. I mean, I got these listed in order. Okay. It was 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, which to me, 84, it came out in 84, right at 85. That's the year I graduated high school. I mean, this one deeply identifies with me.
Sure.
But Weird Science has to be, and again, for me, is one of those, are you kidding me? It is the funniest freaking movie.
And that one's just absurd. There's nothing.
It is hilarious. And, it was Anthony Michael Hall. By the way, to see where Anthony Michael Hall has come through all of these and then where he's at today is pretty amazing. By the way, in remembering 16 Candles was, and this may become a John Hughes fest here, was an autobiographical experience, semi-autobiographical for him.
Oh, okay, semi-autobiographical. Okay.
Yeah, and there's a book out, and I thought I had it close by on Hughes, and it's a story of all the movies and how they sort of put together. It was of the bigger movies. Of course, The Breakfast Club. Here's an interesting fact about The Breakfast Club. And we all talk about stereotypes and cliques. And I actually we have a little movie room that we have where we watch our movies downstairs. And I have one of my movie posters in that room is The Breakfast Club. And the speech, which actually is a part of it, is David Bowie's song at the start. but it was shot in 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
8 weeks, with most of the filming taking place in a high school gymnasium. Weird Science, of course, is great. You got Ferris Bueller, but then we switched gears a little bit, and this one is one. And like I said, James, this is what I love about movies. We're gonna turn this into a John Hughes deal, okay? And we can save some of the other movies because we'll throw some in where they fit, okay? Because listen to this one. After Ferris Bueller comes Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
His run from 84 to 1992 should be studied. Maybe longer.
Oh, amazing.
I mean, first of all, Planes, Trains will always be one of my favorite. It's one of my favorites because it has two of the greatest comedians in the history of film ever together, which is insane. And I don't know if you got a chance to see any of that Steve Martin doc on, I think it was Hulu. I can't remember, maybe Prime.
Yeah.
Or I don't remember where it is. But point is, he talks about like how John Candy affected him, and he starts crying, and I started crying. And I was like, don't get me upset. Like that movie is one of the greatest movies you'll ever watch. It's a holiday movie. It could not be a holiday movie. It doesn't matter. It is one of the best movies you'll ever watch.
Yeah, it is. It's just Planes, Trains is, how we talk about Christmas movies and holiday movies.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
That's on the list always.
It's Thanksgiving, but the part that got me after I watched it through the first time is you sit there and you watch the two of them, and for somebody now who travels all the time in my life, especially the last 10, 15 years of my life, I now relate to that story so much and being able to travel, and you see people. And again, from life, it told such a true story that there are people in life, the sort of that underlying thing, James, of you don't know, don't be quick to judge people how they act because you don't know what they're going through.
Absolutely.
And, it makes me think, it's not like that, the stories of, somebody on a train who didn't get up and they're crying, or they did something and they don't know what's going on. You find out that they just lost their husband, they just lost their wife. These kind of and for Candy in that, I mean, the range of his acting, and Steve Martin too. I mean, both of them.
Yeah.
Just truly,
Some
of the funniest lines you ever want to hear in a movie, or then now is you go, but that part where Steve Martin realizes, when he goes there and at that sort of end of the movie, he realizes, wait, this story's not adding up.
Yeah.
And that, it kills me every time.
Yeah, no, you cry. You can't help, or at least you get shaken up.
Yeah.
But that's like what all of these, I mean, in the end, all of these films kind of do that to you in some way, shape, or form at some point. Like I think the reality of I know this is way too in depth on John Hughes films right now, but the reality of these films is that I think today people get mad because maybe there's not a lot of substance in some of the silly films you watch. Every one of these has like a silly component to it, but at the same time, like it's a very real conversation that they're having, a very real plot point. Like for Breakfast Club, for example, right?
Yep.
I don't know where you were in your high school career and where anyone is, but like there is always a clear line between people at high school, in high school, especially in the 80s. My parents said that. My mom said 70s. Even when I was younger in the 2000s, I graduated in 11, so 07 to 11. There was very clear cliques, but like in that room, you guys might get together and you really might get together, but you may never talk to each other after that again, because that's the way society kind of forces you when you're in high school. Luckily, when you get out of high school, you learn that stuff is very surface level and pointless. But when you're in it, it's real. You're like, I'm not going to talk to that person.
Applies, James.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And that's what gets me about the Breakfast Club. I always wish, and they always said, and it wasn't his movie, but there was always this talk about doing a sequel, 10 years later or whatever, 5 years later, to that. But it wasn't Hughes that wrote it. Everybody sort of thought that the St. Elmo's Fire was and here's another movie that you should watch.
Yeah.
But St. Elmo's Fire was the sequel to Breakfast Club. In some ways, I always remember the rat.
Yeah, I could see that.
The Brat Pack, but Emilio Estevez was in it, and so was Judd Nelson and Ali.
But they also added Rob Lowe and his.
Yeah, but you had 3 of the 4 were in that movie. 3 of the 5 were in that thing, but it didn't feel right. And for me, and now you've been out 12 years. God bless you. For 13 years, I've been out of high school this year. God, I hadn't really thought about this. It's 40 years for me this year.
Doug, buddy.
40 years. 40 years I've been out of high school.
Wait, because that's right. My dad graduated in 80, so yeah.
I graduated in 84.
30, 45 years. Oh,
yeah, I graduated in 84.
You forget that it's only the first 18 years of your life, though. That's very important.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you're a child. You're an idiot. You're a moron, and you're barely a human being at that point.
But it is amazing, kind of think about that. And then the reason I sort of say that is I can still remember vividly my graduation. I can still remember going. We had it at the Georgia Mountain Center, which was a place here. My mom had everybody, and my dad, had family in, and it was always, why couldn't you get more tickets and why didn't you wait? And it was just, all this. I mean, I really wanted the night to be over anyway.
Yeah,
but it was just like, you did it, and I can still remember people that I had spent, and even you in this short time, you can understand it as well. There were people I spent every day of my life with, pretty much for 4 to 12 years, depending on, or 6 to 12, because my high school was 7 to 12.
Yeah, we were 9 to 12. Okay.
Yeah, so I had 7th through 12th. So we had a middle school. We didn't have middle school concept.
They just made middle school up to separate kids from getting beat up.
They did.
I mean, let's be honest.
So I had at least 5 years. 5, 6 years. But I had some for 12. Some that I had been with since first grade. And, you think about it, you always hear, oh, let's keep in touch. You put it in the yearbook. And here's the thing that just blows me away every time I think about it. And I make mention of it, especially when I talk to seniors or graduation. There are people that I would speak with at least, if not every day during that time frame, every other day, or at least sometime during the week, that I have not said a word to in 40 years. 40 years. Think about that.
That is fascinating. So let me ask you a question. This is taking a turn. Do you have friends from high school still that you talk to?
Yes.
Are those like very close, very like almost family at this point, right?
No. Do I have people that I? Yes, right. and I do. I have 2 in particular that we were friends from almost first, second grade. Okay.
I have that as well. I think,
and we went through college together, actually.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Okay, well, you didn't go to art school like.
But we don't talk every day. One now lives in South Carolina. One still lives across the lake from me. One's a dentist.
And you'll always chat. You guys could not talk for.
We could always families. We were in each other's weddings. You guys could
not talk for a year and nothing would happen. You came right back to be like right. So I have been one of the fortunate people in my life, which is why a lot of these movies hit pretty hard. I think I could be wrong about that, but like I have friends since I have 4 friends since I was 5, and I have 5 more friends since I was around 13 that I'm still friends with us today, and we talk to like family, like every single day. We're on the phone. They're all having kids now, so like it is crazy. And then you have these like time capsule movies where you could trap it and you could feel it one more time. It's weird. And
Yeah.
when you get older, you're like, oh man, I can't believe we were like that. But it is what it is. You were a child. Your brain was just like, I need this to happen for me. You believed it at the time too. You were like, yeah, that's gonna happen to me. We're all gonna grow up and go off on our separate ways and be happy. And maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But it's funny, like that is such a major, like those movies are a major part of your life. So you have the 80s. Mine are a little different because obviously mine was the 90s. I don't know if I have too many like that, but yeah, I think that stuff, like it really like just holds it in a bottle for you so you can watch it in the
Think
future.
about it. Here's something for you to think about. You've been out now, what, 13 years?
Yep.
Something like that. 13 years come June.
11. Yeah.
Yeah. There are people in your class that are no longer living.
Yeah. That's one of the hard ones.
Yeah, I have, and not just on, car wreck, the tragic kind of thing. But I mean, for me, 40 years, I know there's some that are gone, but I don't. But again, when you think about movies like this, and one of the things I hope for the listeners on the podcast today are just catching a glimpse of, hope this takes you back and makes you, number one, the older you get, the more you want to. I'm learning some hard lessons, and the hard lessons is I may be, I'll turn 58 this summer in August, but I don't feel 58. I don't know what it's supposed to feel like, but I don't feel 58.
Sure.
I still listen to the same music I did when I was in 20s and 30s. I still have the same quirks. Thing. But you can't go there. There's some things you just can't recapture, and there's some things you can't start again. And I think the longer you get and the older you get, that's when these movies. I mean, I remember watching one of Lisa's favorite 80s movies. She believes everybody has to watch is Top Gun, and again, not a John Hughes movie, but it was Top Gun. But you can sort of see the 80s. You can sort of sense that vibe. When that movie came out, just to put this in perspective, when that movie came out, I was 20 years old.
Oh man, I'm surprised you didn't hop into a plane immediately.
Well, I was.
Well, you kinda. I mean,
yeah,
in some way, shape, or form, you kind of made it there, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, you have it. It's like lawyers and everything else. But when you look at the stuff that grow up, if you had, here's the question, and because the John Hughes movies made you think of, especially a lot of the Home Alone. I mean, he went on to have Home Alone. He went ahead, and had other movies, massive hits kind of stuff. But when you look at if you go back to those first ones, if you go back to the Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, Weird Science, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, even Planes, Trains, he sort of turned, after that grouping of there was also some movies that he didn't really work on, but they were movies that he dealt with. Yeah. And it was in that same genre, if you would.
He probably wrote a lot of them because
it was there. So it was, you look at it, but what he dealt with was that, sort of coming of age, however you want to put it, look, but it was, it also made you think, where were we in life kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And what happens after that. I mean, because, there's a lot of movies that, he was a part of. I mean, like Mr. Mom, if you remember, that was a movie that, he was a part of. He was a part of European Vacation. He was a part of Pretty in Pink, which is another classic movie, Pretty in Pink.
Another one,
It had John Cryer in it. That is hilarious to me, is to watch John Cryer as Ducky in Pretty in Pink, and then now to see him in how he's sort of grown up to always still sort of be that sort of odd duck, if you would.
Yeah, that nerdy dude.
Yeah,
the 2.5 Men, was it?
What was it?
2.5 Men?
The what now?
The 2.5 Men show?
Yeah, the 2.5 Men. Another one that he had something to do with was a movie called Some Kind of Wonderful. And if you've not watched Some Kind of Wonderful, it's that sort of guy from the wrong side of the street likes the girl from the other side of the street. They get in the fight. You got all this kind of stuff. And then he sort of switched, and when he sort of traded some of that to go, Home Alone, Dennis the Menace, Baby's Out, this Miracle on 34th, there's others. But those stories, you really wonder at times, what would the Breakfast Club look like? What would Pretty in Pink look like? What would Some Kind of Wonderful look like 3 to 5 years down the road? If you go back to the Breakfast Club and you take the Breakfast Club and you look at it and you say, okay, what was, Judd character, was
Judd Nelson's
criminal.
character.
I mean, what's he be doing? He may own 3 garages and makes $1 million a year. And Emilio Estevez blew out his knee and, did something, went on drugs. It's just, you wonder about that because you see all of us in high school. I can remember some of the folks in high school that I didn't, associate, run with, who are now extremely successful in what they do. And I saw some of the guys who were going to be they were the king of the walk in the high school, and they never grew up out of high school.
No, I know a couple people like that in my life. I mean, some of us take a little longer to get there, I think, but some people just don't do it.
No.
They just won't do it, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you can hope. And there are some people in my life, like straight up in my life, that scare me to death because I think about, like, buddy, you're not a high school. You're not 18. I know we like had fun and we got to do whatever we wanted back then, but there are consequences now. There's stuff to do. You got to have a job. You can't be living with your folks. And I'm not judging anyone for how long you live with your parents at this point because
no, I mean, you can.
Things cost a lot of money. It's crazy. What I'm saying is, like, I think there's a part of, like, I think you could say this about everyone in the Breakfast Club. In some way, shape, or form, they would have all tried to strike out on their own. That doesn't happen as often or as early as you'd hope now. That's for sure.
Well, remember, they were Gen Zers. I mean, they're Gen Xers.
They're Gen Xers. Yeah.
They're Xers. They're that's my folks. I mean, we didn't, this concept of, the way, and it's not a criticism of both. It's just an honest assessment of life. What today kids look at and they see in the Breakfast Club, they don't recognize anymore as much because you have so much of the helicopter parent. You have so much of the just the different parenting issues that go on here in different ways.
And don't forget kids who are allowed to be kids. I know that's a crazy thing to say out loud because I'm not that old yet, but social media does not allow kids to be kids anymore. They see, if you saw, all right, I'll use this for example. When I was in high school, if I saw somebody famous doing something, which would have been hard to see outside of MTV or the movie, or maybe when YouTube was first coming up, and even then it was barely coming up. If we saw something cool, we would either try it at the park if it was a sport, or we would dress like them or wear it. Like that's how like those things happen. But like now, like these kids are flushed into like doing full adult lives at like 15 because that's what famous people are doing. They're showing their everyday life. And listen, we all know social media has benefits, but the benefits do not outweigh the craziness of it. And it feels like I saw a kid dressed as a full adult. I came home. This is probably like 3 years ago, or right before I left for Texas, and I saw a kid dressed as a full adult. He must have had what looked like $400 worth of clothes on, and I was like, "You are 4'4". There is no way." And he's with his friends. And all I was thinking was like, is it terrible parenting? Did that kid beg his mom for that stuff? Did I beg my mom for that kind of stuff? And I look like a weird adult at that age? I don't know. We all tried to dress like construction workers for some reason when we lived in New Jersey. We had Carhartts and Timberlands. But
there you go.
But I'm just saying, like, it's a weird situation. And like, I haven't seen a movie outside of maybe Booksmart was pretty good, but there's not a lot of movies now that have that same 80s coming of age vibe because they tried to make it as realistic as possible while also giving you like some fun. And I think some of these coming of age movies are kind of depressing. Like they're good, but they're just depressing lately.
Yeah. Well, the ones today though, and let's you try to, as your fellow New Jerseyan, Bruce Springsteen, Glory Days, sort of lays out, the song you're talking about, Glory Days, but think about movies of coming to age now. Okay. in Breakfast Club, one of the more poignant scenes and that came up was when the Anthony Michael Hall character was talking about that he was going to kill himself because he got a B or he got an F, whatever it was going to be. And they were all the way that the camera panned around. I mean, they did an amazing job with that. But it was that was such a wow. I mean, that's like, you think about it, and how your parents, that sort of. Now you go into coming of age stuff, and you get what was the one, and it just left me. I only watched like 2 episodes of it because I couldn't take the rest of it. It was on Netflix or one a couple of years ago.
You know what it was about?
Yeah, about kids and
not Stranger Things.
No. This was hard.
I can't think of any. I can't think of it. Maybe I'm trying to think of the show, the coming of age that I watched.
They had the girl on it. Sweeney, I think, was in it.
Oh, Euphoria.
Oh
yeah. No, I'd say no.
So we went from Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, to Euphoria.
That show is. I've talked to kids that are that age or supposed to be that age. Those people are all adults. But I've met people that they're like, that's not. I don't know what high school they're going to, but it's not ours. Because it's a dramatization of some of the stuff going on in high school, whereas like the ones you're talking about, that stuff was just happening in high school. Most of the movies I watched, kids, that whatever was happening in high school, that was real. It's kind of real.
Well, they wanted it to be, and like I said, now they go for the oh my god factor.
Yeah, it was like the whole show is like a designer drug.
Yeah, and
it's just like, ecstasy.
Are you kidding? It's amazing. And then they had, there's just been so many of those young adult coming of age kind of, not just high school, but right early 20s, in which it's all sex, drugs. I mean,
like we know that's part of it, but that doesn't have to be the entire thing.
Yeah, but that's the way it's shown these days.
They make it like every kid. Trust me. Every kid was not having that much fun in high school, I assure you.
No. I agree.
Did any of them get grounded? Where are your parents?
Yeah.
You know what my mom used to do? She used to let my friends play outside my giant bay window, so I had to watch them play in my yard when I was in trouble. That doesn't happen. They're like, oh, yeah, you can go back out and do crack. It's fine. Don't worry about it. That's literally Euphoria. They're like, oh, were you doing coke? That's fine. Go ahead and do that again.
Yeah. Well, and seeing for like my generation, the Gen X generation. I mean, they can't even name us. They just put Gen X. We don't even know who you are.
Yeah, you're not a thing.
I mean, the scary part would be is what in the world would have happened if we actually had cameras like we had today in our time. It would be.
You know what? This is good. There's a video of Ashton Kutcher talking about. Now he's talking about being famous, so it's a little different, but it's not that much different than when we were kids, as far as like just getting away with stuff. But he was like, you used to go to a club, and this was right before paparazzi took off, TMZ. You would go to a club, everybody would go, you would go in, you would do whatever you wanted in there. No one would say anything. No one would leave and talk about it later. It happened there, and then you left. Then they would come out, maybe the paparazzi was there, whatever. Then TMZ showed up, then camera phones, then the toss-away phones. Cameras, the disposable cameras.
Yeah.
Then cell phones, then everything was over, right? If my parents got a hold of footage of anything I did between the ages of 12 and 20, I would be arrested and in jail and separated. My parents would emancipate me. That, like, I'm just saying, like, that's very real. Thank God they didn't exist back then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, movies and TV used to be special in a sense. They're not anymore. Because for me, to get to come in and watch TV, that was either it was at nighttime or there was Saturday morning cartoons. Because the rest of the time, about 100 yards from where I'm sitting, I mean, I was out in those woods. We were jumping. We were making ramps. We were burning
for our
stuff.
bikes. That's exactly what we're doing for our little mountain bike.
Because we couldn't come inside. My mom said, go outside. We'll call you at lunch. And that was only if we needed lunch. We'd go down the road. We went to the lake. We went everywhere. I mean, again, but these kind of movies, and I think bringing this back to movies, and hopefully, like I said, maybe if you're out there and watching DougCollinsPodcast.com, hit the email button. Tell us what's your favorite. I mean, we hit on Hughes today. We're going to have to come back and pick up other movies that you're going to have.
Yeah, we will, because there's a list of movies on here that I made that I am regretting making as of today because we wasted our time. No, but I did.
We found all these movies out, but they make us think. They make us grow. They reflect some of the best movies. Reflect real life in a way that makes you think or a way that makes you react, but doesn't give you the end answer. I think that's the best part of the Breakfast Club. When they all walk down, don't you forget about me. Yeah. He's walking across the, and I mean, I've been there. I mean, I can walk across the football field after school, and he's walking on, he's leaving out, hey, see you next Saturday. He's walking across, and they get in the car, and it's just like, I've been in those situations, and it's just like that, but it leaves it. We said earlier in the podcast, wouldn't it have been interesting if they'd have made a real what would happen? I'm glad they didn't.
Oh, for sure. No, that would have pissed make it clear.
Yeah. Because now it's up to anybody who wants to think it. Molly Ringwald and Judd got it. They got together and had kids. Who knows?
But I'll tell you what, if there are two coming of age movies that, since we're talking about it real quick, and then we can hop off. There are two that are really important and near and dear to my heart. Yep. And it's only because I think this is I don't know how you feel, but I always wanted to live in the 70s and the 80s or 60s and 70s. That free, do whatever you want, go into the woods, come back if you come back. But I kind of had that, but it was still the 2000s, so everybody was worried about people grabbing you. Anyway, point is, there are two movies. It's called, I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of it, Almost Famous, one of the best movies you'll ever watch in your lifetime, and Dazed and Confused. And if you don't know Dazed and Confused, I hate you and I don't want to talk to you. However, those two movies shaped like everything for me. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go find a rock band and I'm going to go travel with them forever.
Yeah, Dazed and Confused. Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, that literally launched his career, and all he did was say, be a lot cooler if you did. That's it. That's all he had to say, and change the world forever.
Be a lot cooler if you did. Yeah. It is, again, it's just, but they make an impression. So, look, folks, we're getting ready for summer. May's coming in. We're going to have a lot of politics coming to the end of the year. But we're going to have a lot of these over the next few weeks just to get you ready for summer. We'll kick in. We'll keep you involved in politics and everything that's going on as we go forward. But for James, Chip will be joining us on some of these. We've got Matt Whitaker.
Absolutely.
Got a lot of folks in the next little bit coming up. But just this is a day for you just to take time off, think about some movies, and maybe go home tonight. And instead of going up somewhere, and if you got kids at the house, bring them all together, because there's one thing that still haunts me as I've gotten older. And I saw this to James. It pretty well fits the movies that we've talked about and how they make an impression. One of these days, back in the past, especially if you're an adult, and like I said, I actually happen to live in kind of the same neighborhood I grew up in.
Sure.
Same here. I can still remember looking out as I leave my house and still see the same front yards that I played in. And I saw this on social media the other day, and it made an impression on me. And it said, one day you and your friends went out to play, and it was the last time you ever did it, and nobody realized.
Why would you haunt me with that for the rest of my life?
But think about it. It was everybody thinking, oh, this is gonna be great, but it's the last time.
You just don't know.
So it just makes you live life. It says just go out and live it. Tell people you love them. Do what you need to, because we're not promised another day. We're only promised what we got right this second. So with that, folks, I appreciate James. Appreciate y'all being here. We'll see you next time on the Doug Collins Podcast.